You don't realize how on edge you are until you don't have to be. Hey, I am Chuck the Bureaucrat, and about 2 months ago I retired from the Army as a colonel and took a contract job on one of the many issues I oversaw while I was still in uniform. And it's only becoming obvious to me as time passes that as a colonel, I was operating in this incredibly tense, alert, hypervigilant state. I was always on the lookout for the issue that was going to pop up and ruin my day. Here are a couple examples of what I'm talking about. Every day I would skim the morning news Roundup looking for an article that talked about the part of the Army I was responsible for. My experience was that you had about 6 hours from the time the Washington Post published an article until 3 stars wanted answers. Here's another example. The Chief of Staff starts talking about staff restructuring. Get involved personally, or you'll wake up one day and your staff will be smaller. If one of my staff ran into unexpected resistance, I would crack down on that as fast as possible to make sure it didn't bubble up to my general officers. There's just lots of warning signs and signals that you gotta watch out for. So when I started my new job, I found myself reflexively responding to those signals the way I had as a colonel. And that was all, even though those signals were not my responsibility. For example, the office is working on a response to the Government Accountability Office, and my brain was screaming at me, "Get on it!" There's a regulation that's getting revised, and my brain was racing to organize the documentation. Meanwhile, none of this is my responsibility. I have a task. I'm responsible for doing that task. Obviously, this has some implications for our general well-being and our mental health. Always overreacting to the things that are going on around us, that's no way to live. And getting distracted by those external cues, that just diminishes the time, effort, and quality that gets put into the things that we actually are responsible for. And I think there's something really important for our military retirement transition here. That whole process of piling more and more on your plate, delivering results with less effort and more coordination, well, those are all the hallmarks of a field-grade officer who's trying to rise through the ranks and get promoted. But at least for me, those behaviors do not make any sense in a post-retirement world. The marginal gain from increased responsibility, is it worth it? I mean, I don't think so, at least not for me. And when it comes to making your decisions, the key is to make them consciously. Don't simply fall back into past habits. And now, if you want to see my biggest regret about my retirement process, watch this video.